Hip Hop Nation, you're tuned in to the Sarge and OQ review.
Phone lines are hot already.
Yeah, call us up right now, 877-60 Hip Hop, and we're talking about the execution of Troy Davis. Now, he's been on death row for the past 22 years. He's, sentenced to death for the murder of an off-duty police officer back in 1989. Now, he has always maintained his innocence. The conviction was based on testimony. There was no DNA evidence linking him to the crime. There was no murder weapon found.
Yeah.
It was people who testified against him.
Stuff that, if it happened today, you wouldn't put this man on death row.
Right. So the thing is, Sarge, 7 of the 9 people who testified against him, it changed their story. So, one would think that would be enough to cast some doubt. So throughout the years, he's been requesting clemency, to have this death sentence commuted. And it came down to the wire today. He was set to be executed at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We held our breath.
The Supreme Court stepped in, reviewed the case, and in the end, they rejected an 11th hour plea for a stay.
Yes.
So, Sarge, he was executed shortly before 11 o'clock this evening.
Yeah, 11:08 he died.
Well, 11:08 he was declared dead. But 15 minutes prior to that, they administered the needle.
Yeah.
877-60 Hip Hop. How do you feel about this? I mean, everybody, Sarge, from the Pope, Amnesty International.
Everybody.
You had your favorite, Big Boy from Outkast.
Hip hop came out.
877-60 Hip Hop. How do you feel about this execution?
How appropriate was it that Big Boy from Outkast was out, trying to protest against this execution? Because you gotta take this thing back to 1989, and if you think about the Outkast album, when they tell you about the Confederate battle flag flying over the Capitol in the state building in Georgia, you understand the racial tensions in Georgia, the state at that time. Georgia is not a nice, it wasn't always just Atlanta black people hangout place. Georgia was one of the racist states in our nation. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about civil rights era. So you take it back to 1989 when this guy was convicted of when this incident happened, and you got to think about the environment. Today, by today's standards, if 7 out of 9 witnesses would have recanted their statements about this guy murdering this police officer, this off-duty police officer, and no physical evidence that like we're so used to seeing CSI and all stuff like that, Orlando. This guy would never, like things would have been in a balance. It wouldn't have been, as it is,
right?
Today. So I think that the guy should have got the benefit of the doubt, but it also leads us to a bigger question. I heard Roland Martin on CNN saying that, this is why when they call black people to go to goddamn jury duty, to participate on these witness stands. When you say, I ain't going to jury duty, when I ain't doing no justice thing, or I'm sick, or I can't be objective, I don't want to be out of work.
I'm going to fake that I'm sick.
I'm going to fake this and that and the third. Well, guess what you're doing? You're putting people like Troy Davis's life on the line, because if there's a jury that's adverse to a guy like that, particularly in a state like Georgia, you're going to die.
Somebody else is sitting in your jury seat. 877-60 Hip Hop. We're taking your calls, America. The death of Troy Davis. It's Hip Hop Nation. 9-1, what's your name and where you calling from?
Oh, my name is CJ. I'm calling from St. Louis. I think this is an atrocity. It's unfortunate that in this country you can have no evidence against you and still die. So it's a day of mourning, and it's a day that people should really be pissed off, especially black people.
Yeah.
But what about how Sarge was saying earlier? Should we use this instance to motivate us and change our way of thinking when it comes to the judicial system?
No, you're absolutely right. Looking at the death penalty first and foremost, which I think is something that is completely horrible, because more black people have died or have gotten off because of DNA evidence than anybody. So just imagine the people that are in cases without DNA evidence and what kind of time that they're doing. And another thing is just people's level of consciousness. We need to get off this bullshit and start saying what's really going on in this
Yeah.
the judicial system. We're getting jammed up all the time. Brothers are getting 30, 40, 50 years, and nobody gives a shit. I mean, it should be some smoke in Georgia tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not condoning.
Yeah, I'm not condoning that type of behavior, but I understand.
I understand how you feel, but hey, we this is responsible radio here. You know what I'm saying? We can't. Hey, you know what I think though? I think that people should say, hey, you know what? Instead of ducking jury duty or ducking the voting booth, you should be an active participant in your government.